Hey folks, Bardo here. Well, it only took me 2,611,220 forge points, but I did it. This week I achieved my long-term goal of building my arc all the way up to level 180. So let's talk about that journey, how I did it, how you can do it too. But we're also going to talk about some important recent developments in the game, and of course, we have the hot tip of the week. All right, let's do it, folks. Here we go. Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for checking out my latest video. I really appreciate it. Now, before we dive into the main content of this video, I just want to mention this is really kind of a time of milestones for me personally, and it's been really cool. In addition to reaching level 180 with my arc, I am on the verge of reaching my very first major goal with this YouTube channel. At the time of this recording, I've got 964 subscribers. You see it there. I mean, that honestly blows me away. I mean, when I started this channel back in February, I had no idea that I would experience this much engagement. I didn't really know what to expect, and I didn't start out really with goals for the channel immediately, but I can tell you this, I never expected that in 6 months I'd be on the verge of 1,000 subscribers. So I want to take a minute, thank all of you for hanging in there with me and investing your time into watching these videos. I mean, you could be doing all sorts of things, but when you watch these videos, you're choosing to tune in, and I appreciate that. It's really been a blast. And maybe this video itself will get me over the 1,000 mark. So I'm only 36 subscribers away. If you're new to the channel, or maybe if you're not new to the channel, but you haven't subscribed, maybe if you would be so kind as to help me get there by clicking that red subscribe button down there in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, that would be awesome. Now, before we talk about my journey with the Ark, I do want to talk about an announcement that Inno made this week about the game. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. So you can see here the announcement that was put out. Now this came out, I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago, I think. But I think it's fairly significant. So as you can see, starting on August 19th, you will notice that finish special productions and finish all special productions can no longer be applied to. And it talks about the buildings that you can't use these with anymore. So Guild Battlegrounds and Quantum Incursion buildings that produce building fragments. Why is this a big deal? Okay, so which buildings are we talking about here? I think the main buildings in my city that are affected by this, so we're talking about like the Wyverntide Spire of Victory right down here, the Thunderdrake Citadels, which I've got 2 of those, and the Royal Tower of Champions over here. Those, you can see all 3 of those buildings produce fragments. And that's what they're talking about here. They're talking about these QI and GBG, buildings that produce fragments. So, this really kind of sucks. The only thing that's good about this, I guess, is that they didn't make the change immediately, right? I mean, they're giving us until August 19th before taking this opportunity away, which that is this coming Monday. So we've only got a couple of days. Today is Friday. If you're like me, if you're like my guild mates, you will be burning through a ton of these special productions when collecting your city over the next few days. Okay, so I mean, why is this a big deal? How significant it is. So let me kind of explain from my perspective, what this means. So let's take a look at my level 1 Thunderdrake Citadel here, right? So when we finished the last GBG season, our guild, won that round. We earned enough fragments to either open up a new level 1 citadel or advance your Citadel level 1 up to a level 2. And so I had a decision to make there. I thought about it and I decided to place a second level 1 right here. Now, why did I do that? I did that because, as you can see, this creates fragments for a Thunderdrake Citadel upgrade. I mean, I made the decision to do that, and then like the very next day, they came out and said you can't use finished special productions on these buildings anymore. So maybe that ended up being a mistake. But the reason why I did it is because, okay, if I place 2 level 1s, then eventually those are both going to produce enough fragments for them both to be level 2s. So that was my thinking on that. Now, what folks are doing and what I had planned on doing, I mean, I've got a lot of finished special production kits. I think I've got about 70. But, the technique, of course, and most of you probably know this, but when you're doing your BG collection, so for me, I get 15 charges for my BG here. What you do is you use those to collect several of your, of these buildings at once. So, you collect it, then you go ahead and use one of your finished special productions. You have to motivate it or aid it, so then you use your self-aid kit, and then you finish it and you collect it again. So you rinse and repeat. And so what this gives you the ability to do is in one collection session, you're getting multiple of these fragments that you need to upgrade. Well, obviously, since we cannot, after Monday, we will not be able to use the finished special productions to do that anymore. So I just wanted to point out to you that if you have a lot of those finished special productions and you like the idea of doing something like that, you have until Monday to do this. And then afterwards, we will no longer be able to do that. So just a word of caution about that. So, all right, let's take some time and let's talk about my journey getting my beloved arc all the way up to level 180. Now, before we get into this, I know a lot of you you're probably going to comment and say, Bardo, that was so dumb to spend so many forge points getting your arc all the way up to 180. I mean, I get it. I mean, the very last level, and this is ridiculous, but the last level literally cost me over 52,000 forge points, and that was out of my own pocket. So yeah, I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of forge points for one level of something. Am I ever going to reap the benefits and surpass my investment on that? I don't know. I think there's a decent chance the answer to that question is going to be no. So then why did I do it? Well, first of all, I mean, I had to do something with all of my forge points. I had already leveled up most of my most important GBs to levels that made sense to me. I had carried an average of about, I don't know, usually between like 150 to 175,000 forge points in my bank. I usually just kind of carried it there. I mean, what else am I going to do with those? So, I did it. It was just a goal I had. I wanted to see if I could get there. Kind of like running a marathon, right? Like it doesn't make a lot of sense to go out and run 26 miles. There's not a lot of reason to that. There's not a lot of logic, but it's a challenge. And I've always kind of been one to embrace those kinds of challenges. So I wanted to see if I could get there. And in our world, Langendorn, there were 67 total players on the entire server that had level 180 arcs, and I wanted to be number 68. I wanted to see if I could get there. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about my background in the game, just to provide a little context for this. So I started playing during the pandemic. I think it was late July of 2020. So at this point, I mean, I've been playing for a little over 4 years. I think I've played at least a little bit every single day during the last 4 years. I remember setting that goal of getting my arc to 80. I mean, most people know when you start playing the game, you start learning a little bit more about it. The first, significant goal really should be working to get that arc up to 80. So there were me and 3 other players of a similar level. We decided back then we were going to do everything we could to help each other get to 80. I mean, we dumped all of our forge points on each other's arcs. We did swaps. We had some different, I mean, obviously it's been quite some time. I don't remember exactly what we did, but we had some different ways that we worked with each other to get our arcs up to 80. And I remember the moment I got to 80, I literally poured myself a shot of Jack Daniels and slammed it down. It was like 11 o'clock in the morning. I remember it very vividly. It was during the pandemic, and I did this, and it was kind of crazy, but it was like, it's in the middle of the pandemic. Nobody's going anywhere. And man, I just was so happy to have achieved that goal, because that really opened up the doors for me to do a whole lot more in the game. So after getting to 80, or right around in there, I think it was, I joined a very strong guild. At that time, I mean, this guild featured a lot of elite level players, and these players were very generous, very knowledgeable about the game. But one of the features of this guild is that there were various types of 1.9 threads. There was like a 1.92, 1.95. This is how I started working to get my arc well past 80. And being a part of this guild also gave me the ability to do a lot of GVG fighting. Now that is a big part of this. Keep in mind too that at this time, this was before the attrition limitations were put into play, right? Like now, we and I think it was a good move overall for the game. I mean, we've got limitations. We can only go so high on our attrition, but back then, basically, as long as you had enough camps on your sectors, you could just fight. I mean, as long as the fight was open and it had enough camps on it, you fight. It was kind of insane. But what that meant is that you could accrue enormous amounts of forge points that way. So, like I said, I fought a lot. I still do. I've always been a big time fighter. I mean, well, look at what my fight count is. Here's where I'm at right now. I'm at like 330,000 fights. Is that where I'm at? So you can see I've had an insane amount of fights, which clearly has been a gigantic factor in helping me get to level 180. So I went from one top 10 guild to a top 2 guild, and this has really been the game changer. I mean, this is my current guild, and by far, it's the best guild I've ever been with. Many of my guildies are subscribers of this channel, and I just want y'all to know, y'all are the best. Y'all are the best. The guild is Deliberate Chaos. We call ourselves DC for short. We are here in L World. And we are we're a great group, but this guild is full of the most generous, fun, smart, competitive, and did I say generous players. They have also been a major reason how I've been able to get to 180. So how did I do it? Well, I put together my top 5 suggestions. So if you're wanting to achieve this, if you're wanting to get that arc way up, or even if you just, you're just wanting to accrue a large forge point bank, first of all, fight, and then fight some more. You're going to need to do an enormous amount of fighting, particularly GVG fighting. So that is absolutely number 1, fight. Number 2, build your blue galaxy up to, and I would recommend level 91 for this. But use those blue galaxy charges for very high forge point producing buildings. So when we open up my FOE helper blue galaxy tool here, you'll see, I mean, here's what I get. You can sort these by forge points if you want. So you can see these are my highest forge point producing buildings. I sometimes too, I mean, if there's certain frags that I'm really trying to find, I can sort it by frags. But again, I get 15 charges on my BG. So look, I mean, Now I have a lot of buildings here that are producing a lot of forge points. So when those hit and I get double, that is absolutely huge. Number 3, join a guild that is generous and offers lucrative levels of 1.9 threads. And that's kind of self-explanatory. The more that you can utilize those, whether it's a 1.92, 95, whenever you can use those to just get, better efficiency on the contributions people make to your great buildings, that certainly is going to help you to save your own forge points. You're not having to put as many of your own forge points on the building to build it up. Also, your guild might offer different prizes and contests and incentives that give forge point rewards. I know that's one thing that ours does. Like I said, it's a generous guild, but it offers like rewards and prizes for participating to certain levels and that sort of thing. Number 4, once you get your most important GBs to a reasonable level, to reasonable goals, then stop spreading those forge points around. Stop just putting them all around on a bunch of different buildings. Just simply get into the habit of dropping all the forge points you reasonably can into your arc. Collect your city. Use the city collection tool where you spend 5 diamonds and it collects your entire city all at once. Do that and then dump that gigantic pot of forge points directly into your arc. Now, I would suggest doing that until after you have done your BG collection so you can control which ones you're using your BG charges for. But after that, after like for me, I get 15. So after I do my 15 BG collections, boom, I'm using my collect all, spend the 5 diamonds. I mean, it's worth it to do that. And then you get a gigantic amount of forge points and you can drop those directly onto your arc. And then lastly, number 5, snipe. And when I say snipe, I mean snipe your ass off. I mean snipe every single day. Watch the video I did. It's entitled The Game Changing Tool That Nobody is Using. In that video, I talk about using FOE info, which has a really, really game-changing, it's a terrific sniping tool that you can use. I kind of demonstrate how to do that in that video. Go check that out. That that will give you the ability to do some amazing sniping. But of course, the technique in doing that, you need to have a friends list that is full of players who want you to snipe them. These are like self-levelers or players who welcome you to put any amount of forge points on their building. These players are out there. There are ways to find them. I kind of talk about that in the video as well. But you need to find these players. You need to add them to your friends list and then use the FOE info tool to snipe the crap out of them and do it at least once a day. And if you do that, you will begin accumulating enormous amount of forge points. So those are my top 5 tips for getting your arc up to level 180, and I hope that comes in handy for you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, call the neighbors, wake the kids. It is time for our hot tip of the week. Now, this tip is somewhat of an obvious one. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Um, if it, it's not so obvious, or I wouldn't be bringing it to your attention. But let me talk about this. So, in this game, we tend to get caught up in all these features like GBG, quantum incursions, GE, settlements. There's so much that takes our attention to the game, but there's one part of the game that I think is often overlooked. We all know that space is absolutely critical in this game. You have got to, you're always running out of space, right? We always need more space. Well, one way that you can obtain more space is by fighting ahead on the continent map. So let's take a look at my continent map right now. So I mean, first of all, you know, I'm in future. I'm down here in future. I'm hanging out. I'm camping in future. I have been for a long time. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay here, but I'm in future. And my continent map, I am fighting my way through oceanic future. I think I'm on like, I don't know, there's like different parts of it, right? I think I'm on like part 5 or 6. But my military is strong enough that I'm able to do this. And I just want to point out, look, it's a lot, right? Like there are a lot of different sectors to fight through, but look, there are sectors that give additional map expansions. Here's one, and now today I'm going to do another one. So, I mean, you just fight through these. Now, I don't know how far I'm going to go. I'm going to go ahead and infiltrate this because I never have a reason to spend my my coins. But so I'll go ahead and do this, and I'll open up another expansion on my map. See, no problem. And guess what? I just earned another expansion for my map. So, you know, that is insanely valuable. When you're able to fight ahead on the continent map and open up extra expansions, do it. I mean, we often forget that there's an opportunity to do that. All right, folks, that's all I have for you today. Again, please help me get to 1,000 subscribers. I would love to hear your comments, so drop me one. The community engagement is really the best part of these videos. So, as always, until next time, folks, forge on, my friends, forge on. Thanks so much.